Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me, Joey, and I've been meaning to make this video for quite a while. Embarrassingly, this is actually like the fourth time I've tried. Ideally, I wanted to have it outside. I went on a couple hikes, brought the camera and all this stuff with me. Tried it twice in the woods and twice in the backyard. It was just too loud, or I didn't like the way it turned out, so this is what you're getting now. But what I want to do is a gear review video, and it'll be for 4 different saws that I've sort of accumulated and purchased as gifts for other people over time. Like anything, you kind of buy entry level at beginning and you work your way up as you learn more about the equipment that you're working with, and you learn about what your preferences are, what you like and what you dislike and what you prefer. Over the years, I've kind of developed my own preferences for saws in particular, and so I'm going to go over some of those today with you guys. And with me, I've got my Gregory bag of goodies here. This is the one that I was carrying on my hikes to try to take this video multiple times. I'm also going to go over some pros and cons of the different models that I'm going to show you, the price point, and what I think of them. The first saw we're going to go over is the Cleavers Folding Saw. Cleavers is a company or a brand that has been making camping staples forever, and they make them at an extremely affordable price point. I bought this saw for a friend who's just getting into camping and outdoor kind of activities, so I thought it'd be a great opportunity to get him kind of like a entry-level standard quality saw. And so this is the Cleavers Folding Saw here, an anodized aluminum shaft, which is great because it's not going to rust, and aluminum is a very lightweight metal. However, that being said, aluminum is also a very vulnerable metal. It's easily bent or scratched or broken. It's got some nylon plastic handles and pivot points here, and so the blade is actually housed in this main aluminum shaft. The blade is 21 inches long, and because it's a lightweight aluminum material, it's only 16 ounces, which is great for somebody who's looking to get into backpacking and looking to save a little bit of money when they're buying their firewood processing equipment. So the way you put this saw together is you take this secondary shaft here with the handle attached, you swing it around and lock it into place there. Now there's also a nut or a screw right here that holds the blade in place while the saw is not in use. So you want to loosen that bolt off a little bit in order to free the blade. Once the blade is free, you carefully take the blade out of the shaft, round it about, and there's a little slot that it fits into, and that's basically the formation of the blade, right? You can kind of see it coming together now. But one tricky piece with this blade and the saw is there's another capturing mechanism. I don't know if you can see it there. It's this nut here that loosens and tightens. That's going to be what catches the holes in this blade in order to round this handle back and tension it. So you take this first hole and you stick it in this little slot that's holding the securing nut, and then you simply close the handle like that. And there's your Cleavers Folding Saw. It's got a relatively aggressive, multi-purpose wood cutting blade, which is the same for the other blades you're going to see. So this saw goes on Amazon for about $37.77, which is relatively cheap, inexpensive for the person who's looking after their budget. It's a great saw as far as I can tell. It's lightweight and easy to pack. So for the first time enthusiast or somebody who just wants to get outdoors, this is a great option for you, right? So I'm going to put this blade away and move on to the next saw, which you guys have seen me use in Algonquin, I think, and that is the SVEN Saw, the red handle, easily recognizable saw, pretty standard. Comes in 2 blade lengths. It's also an aluminum shaft, and so it's relatively lightweight. The 15-inch blade, which is what I have right here, right? 15-inch blade is just over 11 ounces. It's 11.1 ounces, which is lighter than the Coghlan saw at a relatively the same price point. But the one thing with this saw, you saw me put it together in the field. There's a bit of fiddling around with it. It's got this wing nut on the very bottom, which secures the saw blade inside this main shaft while the saw is not in use, right? And so how you put it together, you take off this wing nut without losing it, and I already have lost 1 wing nut. Luckily, it comes with 2 wing nuts. And so you take the wing nut off, you take the secondary shaft out of the main shaft, and the blade is housed in this aluminum secondary shaft, just like the Coghlan saw. Except this screw that houses the wing nut is going to be used to put into that hole, while this end of the shaft is put into that slot, right? So all together, you kind of have to do them at the same time, and there's a bit of fiddle around, as I said, right? Extremely lightweight at 11 ounces. I mean, you can't really get any lighter than that. And there's the screw. The wing nut goes in the back. To tension the blade, you tighten her down. And there is your 15-inch wood cutting blade, right? All-purpose blade, just like the Coghlan saw, right? I like this saw. There's a couple things that I dislike about it, such as the wing nut, easy to lose. Another nut that's easy to lose is this one right here, right? That's what holds the saw. This screw and this nut hold this end of the saw into the secondary shaft, right? And so I lost this nut while I was camping, and that made it a little tough. And so I have since replaced that nut with a nice nylon threaded nut, so it's not going to come off anytime soon. But other than those 2 things, I really like this saw. It's a solid construction. It's going to last a long time. The blades sort of started to rust, but it still cuts really nicely. So, I mean, what's a little bit of rust? You should see my car. Like I said, there's 2 blade lengths. This one is the 15-inch blade length, which goes for about $38.95 on their website. The 22-inch blade, which is 14 ounces, goes for $41.50 on their website. Very economical choices for somebody getting into the sport. Reliable, durable, great product. I've been using this for about 4 or 5 years. One thing I would add also is I like to hold the SVEN Saw like this, which I've found I cut my finger on these quite often. So you'll often see me wearing leather gloves, which you should wear when you're processing firewood, but that adds an extra layer of protection in case I'm, you know, mucking about down here. I don't want to nick my finger. You're 7 hours paddle from the car. You don't want to open up any wounds. Anyway, so that is the SVEN Saw, 15-inch blade, 21-inch blade. You can get it off their website. Quality product. Now this third saw that I'm going to show you is actually a saw that I purchased for my fiance for the horticulture industry. It's a folding saw, and it's produced by a company called Silky Saw. This model is called the Big Boy 2000, and it's got a different blade pattern, as you'll see, right? It's extremely aggressive cutting blade, and it's meant for industry, so it's meant to last on job sites for long periods of time. The Silky Saw is a 14-inch blade and runs for about $100 to $110. I got this one off Amazon. It's a little bit heavier than the saws I've shown you at just around 1 pound, which isn't really a whole lot more, but I mean, when you're counting ounces, which some people do, it does make a difference. You saw me use this in Algonquin with Nicole. I've already done a review on this saw. It cuts great, cuts just like the name. It's silky smooth, but yeah, this one is a bit more of a marker on the pocketbook, if you know what I mean. Not the economy saw that you saw me show you earlier. But anyway, that's the big boy Silky Saw. Very, very efficient at cutting, but it does have, you know, some limitations in the field as well. So now that I'm done with that one, I'm going to go on to my newest saw that I just received as a gift myself. And that is probably a saw that you have seen in multiple other videos. All of the YouTube figures that I follow and subscribe to carry this saw on them on their adventures, which prompted me to follow through and get one for myself. You know, I've been asking for one for years after messing around with the SVEN Saw for so long, and thankfully my fiance got me the Agawa Canyon 21, insinuating it's 21 inches long. It's a bit heavier than the other two folding saws that I showed you. The 21-inch blade is 18 ounces. We got this in a kit, which is priced at around $128, I think, and the saw alone goes for $85 on the website. Now they make 3 different lengths for this blade. There's a 15-inch, there's a 21-inch, this one, and a 24-inch. Obviously the shorter one is cheaper than the longer one, but they're all relatively around the same price point. And so this one is even simpler to put together. It's got that folding handle, much like the Coughlin's design, but this one holds the blade in the saw. Rather than having a little screw that you could potentially lose, this handle holds the blade inside the main shaft. It's a much more slim, sleek look, and it takes up less room in your pack than the Coughlin's saw. This is also a pivot point that you'll see forms the frame shape for this saw. So the way you put this Boreal 21 together is you take the handle, you swing it around like that, it locks into place. You'll see it's got an edge there. You take this other piece of the handle, you swing it around, make sure it goes into the little slot at the end, and that little notch right there fits into this handle piece and locks into place. Tensioning the saw. It's got a much wider gate for you to fit bigger pieces of wood, right? Much more efficient. It cuts much larger pieces of wood than the other two saws I've shown you, except for the Silky Saw, because it has no limitation in gate. It doesn't have a frame, right? But in terms of frame saws, packability, durability, this guy takes the cake. It is a workhorse, right? The all-purpose blade is extremely efficient, just like the other all-purpose wood cutting blades. Super easy to put together, no parts to lose, which is why it makes such a desirable product. As far as I know, Agawa Canyon hasn't been on the scene for generations. SVEN Saw has been making saws since 1960s in Minnesota. This saw hasn't been around for a whole long time, but it's developed a really good name for itself because it's an extremely efficient design. It's a really durable product. I haven't used this in the field myself yet, but I'm really excited to take it to Algonquin at the end of May with my friend Bryce, which you saw me adventure with in Algonquin last year, 2020, and another friend of mine who's also named Joey, and he's going to be the designated filming guy, so I will have less to worry about on this trip other than keeping these two guys alive. I'm just kidding. Bryce definitely pulled more than his share of the weight on the 2020 Algonquin trip, and I'm sure Joey is going to do a bang-up job. So look forward to that. I know I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a really fun trip, and I'm prepared to face the black flies of Algonquin Park at the end of May. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the gear review video. I hope it wasn't too long or too boring. Hope you learned something. Hope I helped educate your decision when you're looking for your own saw or when you're looking to upgrade. Just like anything, you start at the bottom and you work your way up, right? Just like tents, backpacks, stoves. You buy the cheapest one when you're starting out, and then you develop your preferences and you learn more about the gear. You know, the first backpack I went backpacking with, we did like a 3-kilometer hike, and it felt like a 20-kilometer hike because my backpack was so not ergonomic. It was devastating to my back. But these are things that you learn through, right? Anyway, if you guys have any questions or comments about the gear that I showed in this video, or suggestions for other gear, feel free to shoot me a direct message or a comment or whatever. I thank you for checking in and checking out the video. If you haven't seen it yet, go check out the trip I did in McCrae Lake with my buddy Aaron, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Anyway guys, this is the Wild Geographer signing out. Thanks for watching. 1, 2, 3. Aggressive blade pattern, so it cuts like